Hello, good people. Welcome back to the channel. As always, thank you for supporting by liking, commenting, and sharing these videos. Today, I am bringing you an interview with Shivalee Talati, an artist and dancer mixing traditional Indian dances with modern songs. She has captivated us all with her videos, and I am so excited to introduce you all to her. Welcome, Shivalee.
Hi, thank you. I'm so excited just to sit down and chat and just to talk about some of my experiences because it's
Yeah,
been quite a crazy ride thus far.
I can't even imagine.
Um,
Yeah.
it's just crazy because I never thought in my wildest dreams that I was talking about something I really just started as a passion, right?
Mm,
Just like I feel like I just need to identify with myself in my own realm. And now I'm here talking to you, which is just
yeah.
like
Yeah. I
so I'm super excited as
I'm
well.
all for it. I love that you've been able to do this, and thank you for sharing it with us, right? I mean, you've seen the responses to it, you've seen the videos, you've seen your subscribers and stuff like that. This is something that people want and that they need. So thank you for choosing to do that. Because it definitely
Wow, that's so
is.
sweet. I feel like I
Yeah.
don't deserve those words.
Yeah, no, definitely. It was definitely I noticed that as soon as I watched your work. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your background, where you got into dance, a little bit about that.
So my background, I first started dancing when I was 5. So
Okay.
I've been dancing for 22 years. Oh my goodness.
Wow.
And I actually got exposed to it from my mom. When I was younger, she would just like pop me into these dance classes, and
Mhm.
it was kind of like part of it was because she herself had a passion growing up, but she wasn't able to live out her dreams. So she
Right.
kind of put my sister and I have an older sister. So she put us into all these like creative classes and after school programs and all this stuff. And I think at one point I was probably doing like 5 different types of dance in like
Wow.
after school. I was just so into it.
Right.
Um, and I primarily have been trained in a form called Kathak,
Yep. Okay.
and how she got into it was in back in her home state in Gujarat, which is
Yep.
where we're from.
Okay.
She saw a performance of a Kathak dancer, and from that on, she's like, "My daughter has to learn this dance form,"
Right.
and so she just popped us in there. And there's this other dance form called Garba, which is kind of like a worldwide or not worldwide Indian folk dance style, and so she also put us in that. And so when I moved to the Bay Area with my family when I was 7, the first competition I did was a Garba competition,
Yep.
and I still remember some of it to this day.
Yeah.
Like, it's ingrained in my brain.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I got initiated into it, and then since then, it's just kind of been, like, my safe space, to be
Mm,
honest. I think that I've had, like, this love-hate relationship with it as well, and trying to identify, like, what type of dancer do I even want to be? Where do I wanna take this? Like, how do I represent who I am in such a traditional manner? And,
mm,
um, yeah, but it's just kind of like a few of my favorite moments that I'm obsessed with is, one, when you're on stage
yep.
and it's, like, pin drop quiet, and you know the music's gonna start playing and the spotlight comes on, and there's just that minute where
Mm,
it's just like, it's just me. Like, this is
mm,
my
mm,
moment. So that feeling I was
yeah.
so addicted to.
Yeah.
Um, but also, like, when you can whatever you find that medium where it just shuts your brain off and you have blinders on and you
Mm,
just feel your soul coming alive, like, those feelings I'm so addicted to. So that's kind of like
yes.
how I got into dance. Like, I could dance for hours. Sometimes when I can't sleep at night, this is like my crazy obsession
Right,
side
right.
though, so try not to judge me too hard.
No, no
But some
judgment.
like, when I can't sleep, I'll pop in my AirPods
Yeah,
and, 3 AM in the morning, I'm just
just start
choreographing in
dancing.
my head,
Yeah.
just, like, vibing and getting rid of whatever anxiety that I'm having, especially in the pandemic
Yeah.
because I'm a little bit of a control nut, and so something like this is out of my capacity. I have
Yeah.
no idea how to resolve it, and I can't, even if I
Yeah.
want to.
Yeah.
So that's, like, my way to just control my emotions and my mind and my space. So that's really how I got into dance, like, just I don't know, making
Yeah.
it my space. Yeah,
I always
totally.
tell dancers, I envy you all because it's literally in your DNA and you can just dance and move your body in a way that I just never could. I'm not. I
I
don't consider
don't
myself a
do that.
dancer.
I feel like there's a dancer in every single person. And that's the thing though, like, I
But I've
feel like
heard, but
if I were to blast some, like,
yeah.
really high-paced dance music, I'm sure you and I would just be, like, vibing, like,
Yes.
right here,
Yes,
right
that's for
now.
sure. That is for definitely for sure.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, totally.
I love
Yeah, so I don't I believe that there's a dancer in every single person.
Okay, we'll find the dancer in me at some point, hopefully.
Absolutely, I'm so game for that
Yes.
anytime. Down.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that we'll be able to find the dancer in me, maybe even by the end of this interview. So I know
Oh,
there's there's 8 major forms of traditional dance, and I know you
yeah,
mentioned 2 of them, Garba and Ktuk, but there are other ones?
yeah, so there's a lot.
Okay.
I personally I can name the ones that I know off the top of my head,
Yep.
but Garba is actually a folk
Got it.
style, so it's not classical.
Okay.
India is very rich with culture, so there's like an abundance amount of variations and
Got
styles
it.
and things like that. But there's a lot. So there's Kathak, which
Okay.
I do
Yep.
primarily. Then there's Bharatanatyam,
Yep.
there's Kuchipudi, there's Mohiniyattam, there's Odissi, and then there's like some other variations that I can't recollect at this moment.
Yep. Yep.
But there's such a diverse classical hub there in
Mm,
India,
mhm, mhm.
and it's really interesting because when I first started doing Kathak, I was just isolated primarily to the Kathak world.
Mm,
And I
okay.
wasn't exposed to any of the other Indian classical styles. And slowly, as like I became more trained, we got more opportunities to work with those other classical styles
Right.
in Indian classical styles in performances and such like that. So I got to collaborate with them maybe like 4 or 5 times
Okay.
before I started my videos. And then I was like, okay, well, I think it'd be cool to just bring all of India together. Like,
Mm,
why not?
mhm, mhm.
And I found through like a fellowship that I had done for dance, I had made some connections of Bharatanatyam dancers, which is
Okay.
the other
Yep.
style of classical dance, and this started this idea of like, let me just ask, like, hey, is this something you'd be interested in?
Yep.
And through that like first interaction, I just met so many different other Indian classical artists,
Wow.
and so we started creating these dance videos that showcase like I think the most I've done was 4 of them.
Okay.
So there's a few videos that have 4 different Indian classical dance styles,
Yep.
but it was really interesting because we have such different backgrounds and different
Mm,
movements, but at
mhm,
the same time, there are moments where you feel like some of them is in more relation to one of the other. And
mhm,
it's such a
mhm.
fascinating complex to be like, wow, like we all derive from this common
Yeah.
base,
Yeah.
and then we applied our own like languages to them, our own movements to them. And it was just such a crazy experience to be like, why don't we do this more often?
Yeah.
Like it's so isolated.
Yeah.
Um, and so that was like a really cool experience to just be exposed to. And I
Yeah.
actually learned so much about like their art form, which I wasn't really exposed to.
Mhm.
Not gonna lie, like it wasn't in my mind to go look it up because I
Right.
was just like,
Yeah.
let me just train in my own thing. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
why would I just go research other things? But I'm so glad that I got to do that because it
Yeah.
made me think outside the box for what I wanted to do. And it's really cool because I think classical music
Mhm,
around the world
mhm.
really like number based.
Yeah.
So if you were to give someone like an 8 count, which is like
Mm,
one,
mhm.
two, right, 8 count, and it's so funny. Everyone, if you were to say any dancer or musician, if you go 5, 6, 7, 8, they
Yep.
know to start right after
Yeah, yeah,
eight, right? Like
yeah.
one. Like the whole world knows that.
Yes.
And I think
Yeah.
it's so fascinating. And like from that idea, I was like, why don't we collaborate more with everybody else? So that's kind of like what
I
I'm trying to do.
I love it because I'm all about collaborations and all about, everyone coming together to work towards the same sort of common goal, right? And when you see those similarities between the different dances, but the universal language of 5, 6, 7, 8, right? When you bring that all together, you get something even more amazing than what you already had, right? So I love that you saw that in people and dances.
Yeah, it's just so cool because there's like in Kuchipudi, they have this plate
Okay.
dance. I forget the terminology, but it's
Yep.
like so amazing that sometimes they put like a water
Mm,
um vase on their head and
yep.
they're like just literally dancing on top of this plate and shifting
Right.
their weight forward.
Right.
And it's just such like an intricate and beautiful dance style that I'm so glad that I was exposed to.
Yeah.
And just learned so much about culture and practice and patience and dedication, and
Yeah.
it's so beautiful just to watch people do that. So
You kind of
yeah.
you kind of touched on it a little bit, and so I wonder if you can dive a little bit deeper into when did you know that this was sort of your calling, right? That you were supposed to bring all of these dances together, these dancers together, and these cultures together. When did you sort of start? When was that sort of moment you were like, "All right, this is what we're gonna do"?
Oh god, that's a little bit of a complex
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
story. But I think that I love my dance style a
Mm,
lot.
mhm, mhm.
Like, I think again, I had some love-hate relationship with that growing up because being super traditional was not the cool thing in school, right? Like being really Desi or South Asian was not the cool thing.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
I was kind of not ashamed, but I kept that part of my life very to myself.
Mm,
Um, and then I realized like where it started like speaking to my soul that I was like, I need to keep up with this. Like, this
yeah.
is really important to me. And I think it was right out of undergrad that I didn't know where I was going. I've always been that person that I know what I don't want to do more than what I want to do, you know? Like by experiencing things, I'm like, I don't want to do this. And they're like, so what do you want to do? I was like, I have no
I
idea.
don't know. I don't know, but I don't wanna
I,
know. Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, but in my culture, there'll be people who are like, when I was 5, I came out and I wanted to be a doctor. And now I'm a doctor. And I'm like, that's amazing, but I
Right,
don't like that. I
right.
don't know.
Yeah.
So after undergrad, I just was like, I don't have a job. I'm not going to my master's. I don't know what I'm doing. And I graduated with a BS in psychology from
Okay.
UC Davis. So I was
Yep.
like, okay, well, I can't really do anything like in the medical field because I just have a bachelor's in psychology. So do I want to go to like a doctorate program, a master's
Mhm.
program, or, and then I decided to go become a behavioral aid for
Okay.
children on the spectrum. So that's what I
Yep.
did for a while. And then I was like, you know what? I love dancing. So let me just try to do some of these creative videos.
Mhm.
So I went to that fellowship that I had mentioned earlier. And I just didn't feel like as supported as I wanted to
Mm,
feel as
yeah.
a dancer. And I didn't feel like I identified with a lot of what they were asking me to present.
Mm,
I kind of wanted to present something that genuinely felt like me.
right.
Um, so then I was like, okay, let me just start doing these videos. And the first time I did my videos, I had stacked like these storage bins on top of each other. And I took, you know, those old camcorder like tripod things. So I took one of those, I got a rubber band, I rubber band my iPhone on this thing, put it on these storage bins, and I started like angling it in like weird places, trying to figure out. And then I spent like 8 hours on iMovie trying to put up this like first video of mine. And then like slowly, I guess what had happened was people just started coming to me of like, there's such a need for this. Like keep
Mhm,
going. Like, you know,
mhm.
we look up to you for what you're doing, which
Yeah,
is such a crazy experience for me being like, I just want to feel like me to
yeah,
have these people that were like, no, keep going, like
yeah.
keep doing it. And I didn't have that before. Like people
Mm,
used to tell me like stop, you know, messing around, don't waste your time, like focus on getting a job and getting your masters and getting married and like all these things. And it was just frustrating because I was like, this is who I am.
mm,
And how do I explain it to somebody that doesn't understand that need to be creative, you know, like that passion, like I have to do this, otherwise I feel like I don't exist.
mm, mm. Yeah.
So I think that moment of realizing like this place is just where I'm meant to be and people supporting me through it. And those people that had once said, hey, you know, stop, like focus on what you need to do and career and getting married and all those things.
Yeah.
If I
Yeah.
hadn't posted for a while, they would come up to me or message me and be like, hey, you haven't posted in a while. Like, are you okay?
Mm,
Like,
mm.
we miss your content. Um,
You're
and that just
watching.
reassured me where, yeah, it just reassured me that it was like, what I do transcends more than the people that feel like me. Like it changes perspectives of people who don't even understand that that's something they were not exposed to or they're missing. And I just love that. Like even if I could just change one person's perspective,
Yeah.
then I know that this whole thing had purpose. And I
Isn't
think
it
that was
amazing how when you start to open up to your gift and you start to share it with the universe that everything else opens up? Like people you
yeah,
don't even know start reaching out to you and telling you
yes,
like, "Oh my gosh, I love your work. Like da 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 da. Thank you for making this." Right? Like that's so affirming and validating, especially
totally.
after being when you were younger here and sort of keeping that side of yourself inside right into yourself. So I love that. I love that you were able to share it because we're very grateful to see it and we're grateful that you brought it to the world because it was needed. Um,
Thank you.
and you see that now.
Oh
Speaking
my
of
God.
these videos, you touched a little bit on the production, the early stage productions. But what
Yes.
goes into a video now? What are you? I mean, you have music, you have different cameras, you have photographers, you have dancers. Can you walk us through sort of what goes through a Estalati production nowadays?
To be honest, it's kind of a chaotic mess, I'm not gonna lie, on
Yep,
the
yep,
back end. It
yep.
looks like, "Oh, it's clean and totally,"
Looks
but
great.
I'm like I'm the sole person of everything minus the cinematography, which one of my friends helps me. Because honestly, if someone gave me a camera, I'd be like, "Is this thing on? Like, does this turn around? Like, what
Mhm.
is this? How do you know about?" Like, I was like, "I
Right,
have no idea."
right.
So he helped with all of that, which is so amazing. But basically what it starts as is like I am obsessed with listening to music.
Okay, yeah.
Um, and I listen to all types of music. Now, if you ask me like who my favorite rap artist is, I
Okay.
probably would not be able to tell you to be honest,
Yeah,
because I
yeah,
just listen and I don't pay attention to who's singing. I just float into the music universe.
yeah.
And when I find something that speaks to me, I will listen to it on repeat for a day, for a week, and my mind will just go into this choreography mode. And
Mm,
then from that comes a concept. So like when I hear a song that resonates with me somehow, I feel like, okay, what am I feeling? Am I
mhm,
feeling sad? Am I feeling empowered? Am I feeling frustrated? Whatever that emotion is,
right,
that becomes a concept I want to deliver through my video. It's like, what emotion do I want to say? What story do I want to say?
yeah,
Um, and when I have that story, then I think of like, okay, who can I have to help create that story? Is it a solo story? Is it a group story? And then from that comes the choreography. So then I meet up with the fellow dancers if there are
mhm,
any,
mhm,
and I'm okay. This is like the feel. This is the angle that I want. This is the concept that I'm going for, and we just all kind of like workshop and we bring all of our skills together, and we just kind of really. It's like you know how people have campfire
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah. Do like a
conversations.
jam
Like we
session kind of, yeah,
yeah, like jam sessions,
yeah,
exactly. So we'll just come together and we'll have like a jam session,
yeah,
but for that specific piece. So like I won't ever be in a place of like, hey, this is what I'm feeling, and this is what we're gonna do.
mm,
I'm like, what are you feeling in this story? Or like when from your classical background, how would you depict this?
right,
So like let's say I would say, oh, like, I'm gonna show a flower. This is flower.
yeah.
If I show a
Oh,
flower, like how would you interact with that flower? And then
right,
from their classical side they'll be like, oh, like I could do like the bees, or I could do like the trees or something like
yeah,
that. And so it's just really like, let's bring our skills together and develop this concept.
right.
And then it just comes like costume and location, and then we just kind of put it all
Put it all
together.
together, yeah.
And I guarantee there's not been a single production that hasn't had issues.
Okay,
Like every
yeah,
single one has, there's always something like
yeah,
absolutely crazy. There's this
yeah,
one shoot that we were supposed to film indoors, but the studio was closed. So last minute, we were like, you know what? We're just gonna go to this random parking lot near an
yeah.
airport, and we're going to film. And we just filmed. It was a one take, so literally just kept filming that 3 minute over and over and over again.
Ah, yeah, okay, yeah.
And then that one has become one of the most like viewed videos. But it wasn't even supposed to be outdoors, and it's just such a crazy
Love it.
experience.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
And I'm just obsessed with that. Like people
yeah,
are always like, "How do you guys just figure it out?" And it's like, we don't.
yeah, yeah,
It's just like we all just love what we do so much that we just understand that it
it
might
works.
not be how we envisioned, but we're gonna do our best. We're gonna create some content that we're in love with, and that's really what's important.
Yeah,
So, the
and
experience, you know?
one of the things that I've learned just in my life is just you have to be flexible and adaptable, right? You just have to
Yes.
deal and roll with the punches, right? And so if it's not the space that you thought it was gonna be, you just shift to another space, right? And you
Yes,
make it work. Yeah.
absolutely. And I like one time one of the girls, like her car was hit like
Oh
in an
my gosh.
accident or something. And
Wow.
we were like, okay. And she was like, I have to go to a flight in like 2 hours. And she ended up moving her flight so
Wow.
that she could deal with everything and do this shoot. And I was like, I am so just blown away with how dedicated and how important this is for some people. And
Yeah,
it's just like surreal, but
yeah,
those are the memories that you're gonna remember forever, right? It's
yeah.
not even about like how many views you get. It's like, oh my god, remember when we created that video and that stuff happened? Like, oh my goodness,
Remember you
definitely.
changed your flight just to be in the video? Love it. Uh,
Yeah, and this is a crazy story,
yeah.
but I think it might be one of your next questions about mask off. I think
Okay. Yep. You want
next
yep.
one. Okay, so let me tell you the craziest story about filming mask off, and then I'll
Okay.
tell you like what the image or the story behind that one was. But basically that morning,
Yeah.
so the night before we filmed Mask Off, we were hanging out in preparation for filming another video that same morning.
Okay. So
So
you were
Mask
doing
Off
you
we
2
filmed
to
at
back to back.
night, filmed 2 that day. Yeah, it was insane.
Yeah.
So But the night before, we were up till like 1 a.m.
Yeah.
just hanging out and just talking about like our experiences in the creative world and, just really having a good time
Yeah.
being around each other. And we went to sleep. We woke up at 4 a.m.
Oh my gosh.
We drove 2 hours to our location.
No
We
sleep.
filmed at 6, yeah, seriously, sleep. 6 a.m. outdoors
Yeah.
near a beach. So it was really cold,
Yeah.
super cold. And we get there and like we realize that we're sinking in the sand, like literally. So our dance did not even live up to what we had choreographed. And it was a
Oh
one
my
take and we
gosh.
had to do like it was just such a mess. And like we would pick up the sand and when we're trying to like dance on the sand, we would just
Right.
like, fall
Oh
or like
my
slip
gosh.
and like it was just like really, really chaotic. And we were
Yeah.
so tired, just like lugging all this sand with us while we're
Right.
trying to dance 3 hours of sleep and like
Right.
so then we finally finished around like 10 and we drove back
Yeah.
and we ate. And then my videographer and I were like, okay, we need to nap. So then we napped, we woke up, and then we finished creating the set for Mask Off.
Okay.
And we
Yeah.
started filming Mask Off at 8 p.m. And then we drove an hour to North San Francisco and we filmed in the middle of that tunnel with
Yeah.
cars coming
Yep.
at us.
Well, okay, so that's what I was trying to figure out is like what time did you film that? Because there were definitely like no cars there.
Really late. But we finished filming at 2 a.m. in the morning, drove back home, went to sleep, and had work the next day.
But like, so I'm not even surprised because this is what happens when your passion drives you. You wake up
Yeah.
at all hours, you are ready to go at any minute, right? Like you
Yeah.
are dedicated
Right.
to getting that shot, to doing what you got to do. But it does sound
Yeah.
insane when you talk about it, right? It sounds like, I'm sorry, so you didn't sleep for 48 hours pretty much is what I'm hearing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Drove
Totally.
multiple times, multiple hours, built a whole set, right?
Yes.
Um, but
Yeah.
then but it was worth it, right? Because then it does